Final Fantasy X-2.5 Eternal Cost, unofficially translated from French to English. Link to the translation is in the description. Chapter 1. Tidus was huddled up and was drifting in the darkness. Pictures were showing themselves in his mind. Was he able to see them, or were they only memories? He didn't know. He was making out a man. He had a wide back covered by a stream of hairs, and a woman was cuddled up against him. His parents. One day, his father had disappeared, and his mother had died of sorrow. As Tidus had suffered when he had understood he would not be able to comfort her, that he, her only son, was insufficient. The pain woke up in his chest. Just after he was facing a huge crowd, he answered the cheering with a euphoric smile. Strangely, all sadness had left him. How was this possible? He gave in to this new sensation of well-being, and the questions which were bombarding him flew by. A terrible monster attacked his home, Zanarkand. Overcome by pain, Tidus had ran for his life. Then he had gotten lost. Do not worry, he had only come to find you. After spending hours swimming in Spira's ocean, the young man had got closer to the coast. The scenery, which is giving itself to Tidus, so different from his native region, had thrown him off balance. Despite everything, kindness and softness from inhabitants had put the smile back on Tidus's face. He had made some friends. They traveled together. His sword in hand, he hunted down a lot of monsters. He had fallen in love too. The day they had confessed to each other, Tidus had understood their story was impossible. Although it was a losing battle, he had refused to submit himself to destiny. He was contemplating a sea made of clouds, memories of the day he had left Spira. He was looking at himself from the back, on board the airship. Shadowing his fear, he had run along the deck before rushing forward. Suddenly, his chest exploded with pain. Yuna! This cry shook his mind. I am back, Yuna! His view was not obstructed anymore. The limit between the darkness which was surrounding him and his own body had become clear. He felt pulled from chaos which was wrapping him. I am coming. His foot propelled him with all their strength to the world of Yuna. He was coming closer to a boundary, the limit between here and there. A luminous wall appeared to blink. Was it a call, or the symbol of a radiant world? Tidus was swimming upwards, always upwards. He was a splendid swimmer. He broke through the wall, and the light dazzled him. Then he discovered the white and azure world, which was extending beyond the boundary. The air filled his lungs. He grimaced, surprised by an almost forgotten sensation. A smell was tickling his nose. He was surrounded by the huge and endless ocean. Under his foot, Tidus seemed to discern the movement of a massive being. It was the living darkness with which he was part of, just an instant ago. If he was not careful, it was going to claim him back to itself. I will not let myself be pushed around. I have just come back. He turned over, then discovered an island. A hill was overlooking a verdant triangle. Beside, the waves were caressing a deserted beach. He whistled with his fingers. Although he received no answer, he felt reassured. His senses did not lie to him. Everything was real. Even if nobody was present to answer his call, he was happy to hear the sound. He started to swim toward the coast. Who was he going to meet first? When will he reach the shore? Where are you, Yuna? Just now, a deafening rumble cleared up the sky. Tidus looked up and discovered a sparkling, colorful aircraft. Instinctively, Tidus tried to get away from it. The aircraft initiated a large circle above him. Then a hatch opened and revealed a well-known figure, Yuna. Without hesitation, he jumped into the void. Tidus watched her diving in direction of the surface of the ocean. She was wearing bright, tinted clothes he had never seen. That is not the Yuna I know, he surprised himself by thinking. But this doubt disappeared when he perceived joy through the eyes of the young girl. She hurried to him in order to embrace him. Just now he knew nothing else meant to her, and this feeling made him immensely happy. Is that really you? She asked after hesitating. I think so. He wanted her to answer herself this question. She moved away from him and examined him as if she wanted to be sure about his identity. So, do I pass? Yes, it's really you, says Yuna. He let out a cry of relief. I'm back. He clamped his arms around her and held her in his arms. During a short moment, he had been afraid of being rejected. I am back, he repeated in Yuna's ears again and again. She embraced him in return. It's you. It's really you. A voice disrupts them. Hey! Get a room, you two! Waka. Tidus turned around in the direction of the coast. The little cove was swarming with people. He recognized Waka and Lulu among the crowd of villagers. Oh, give me a minute at least, says Tidus. Tidus ended up grabbing Yuna's hand in order to drag her down to the beach. A new life was starting for him, a life only dedicated to their happiness. This thought was sending him into transports of joy. Hey, you're different, says Tidus. I have experienced so many things during your absence, she says. Her proud way of speaking surprised him, but he decided to not care about it. As long as he could run by her side, past was not important. I want to know everything, said Tidus. The villagers have been waiting impatiently for the return of Yuna. She had been lost for a long time. Tidus has known most of the people here. They greeted him. There were Dado, Letty, Boda, Jasu, Kipa. What a pleasure to meet his playmates from the Besaid Aurochs once again. Quite proud, Waka introduced a swaddled infant in a cover to him. I am presenting you Vidina. He is adorable, yeah? Of course, but may I ask who the mother is? Said Tidus. It is me, a curt voice declared. Tidus made an about turn, then found himself face to face with an opulent chest. Lulu's, to be precise. Well, we know who he takes after in the case of beauty, Tidus declares. Lulu laughed, then took the infant from Waka's arms. How many times did I tell you to not expose him to the wind of the open sea? This is a child of the coast. What is wrong? Said Waka. You could have waited for the beginning of the tide. But Lou, a smile on his face, Tidus interposed himself between the parents. Hey, congratulations. You are finally living as a couple. I kinda knew it. Yes, Lulu conceded. Nothing extraordinary, to be honest, and sometimes I feel like I have had enough of this. Well, thanks, said Waka. She ignored her partner. Say, Tidus, will you be staying here for a while? If you want me here, Tidus answered with a worried tone. I see. Don't be mistaken. You are most welcome here. Lulu watched around them. The crowd started to leave the beach. We should go back to the village, too. She swaddled her baby in her chin and joined people who were returning home. Tidus understood Lulu's sudden goodbye, since the baby was her priority, but he suddenly felt abandoned. Waka gave him a tap on the back. Let's go. On the road, the members of the Aurochs came to talk with him in turns. They told him about what happened to them during his absence. And Tidus had felt like he had never left. Dado and Kipa told him about their progress, and it made him proud. New players had moved in on the island in order to join the team. News which touched him deeply. The tournament in which he had participated 2 years ago appeared to be a triggering factor. They walked half an hour before arriving at the village. Tonight, we have planned a banquet directed by the elders, Lulu explained. Help with the preparations. Show yourself in your best light. Make a good impression. But before all that, you can rest there if you want. She was indicating the highest tent of the village. Tidus recognized the Crusaders' dormitory. What do they do these days? Tidus asked. These days? Well, whatever they want. Yuna's room is inside the temple, in the same place as always. Ooh, Waka said teasingly. He was carrying an armful of wood, probably in order to feed the blaze of the banquet. Tidus's cheeks did not need fire to become red and scorching. I know what you're up to, you two, Lulu said curtly. I forbid you to go there, Tidus. Your behavior must not lead to confusion, at least until Yuna presents you to the elders. Furthermore, your attitude will determine villagers' opinion of you, And since the temple has become useless, Yuna must support an idle clergy. She is not free to act. Do not forget that. Lulu ended her tirade with a shrug, and her child struggled in her arms. Wow, grumpy, said Tidus. What, is Yuna not happy? Ask her yourself, said Wakka. What, like, are you telling me that she's not like herself? Lulu appeared to agree with Wakka. From what I have seen, her feelings are quite lukewarm. She feels responsible for the situation, but the village stifles her. Therefore, she flies over the region with Rikku and her team. What does Rikku and her team do? You will have to ask her about this too. But meanwhile, do not do something which could harm her. Okay, got it, said Tidus. Lulu went back to her own tent, and Tidus met the Aurochs. Yuna was standing before the temple, within reach of voice. However, Tidus could not talk to her. It appeared the entire village had something to tell her, with no chance of escape. Of course, she could have come up with an excuse to leave, but she was too polite to do that. Kindness was Yuna's strength, and at this moment, this quality was not failing to irritate Tidus. She wants to talk to you, I'm sure, said Wakka. Wakka tried to negotiate with the elders, but they refused to let the summoner go. They are keeping an eye on you, Wakka said as soon as he came back. What? Why? I was Yuna's guardian, and I stuck by her all the way. I deserve recognition and respect, and yet no one expresses either of them? If you say so, a derisive voice declared behind his back. Rikku just arrived this moment. Because of her tanned body, she seemed stronger than his memories. Hey, Tidus, it's been a long time, she said. She made an about turn to call someone. A woman moved forward. She had smooth hair, a stern face, and black clothes, displaying only her shoulders. The contrast with Rikku was startling. This is Paine, a friend. She has worked with Yuna. Yuna talked to me about you, the woman declared. Actually, it was more like a harping. She examined Tidus for a moment, as if she wanted to gauge him. 2 years have passed, Rikku said distantly. And yet... Rikku got closer to Tidus until her nose brushed him and scrutinized him in her turn. 2 years? Tidus felt his stomach turning into lead. Through his conversations, he had understood that his absence had lasted several months. But 2 whole years? Welp, you're the same as always, Rikku concluded. He did not know whether to laugh or cry. He ended up giving a faint smile. Easy for you to say. Look at yourself. Rikku leaned and folded her arms under her chest. Tidus caught sight of Yuna behind her back. You two have not changed, he finished absent-mindedly. He was worried about Yuna. Her taste in clothing was different, clearly, and he was wondering if he was missing something else about her. Hey, I'm here, Rikku pouted. Wow, you are different. What? You just said the opposite, Tidus said. I am talking about your appearance. Inside, you're not the same. In the past, you were a bit stupider, but you were nicer at least. Gee, thanks for the compliment. They burst out laughing, and she began to narrate the events of the last 2 years. She told them about the Youth League, the Sphere Hunters, and the Gullwings. At first, Tidus was questioning them, but he ended up annoyed by the flood of unknown names. You had fun, I can tell, said Tidus. It looks like it's bothering you. Well, I don't have anything to talk about on my side. It's frustrating, 2 years of absence and not a single new thing. What might I have gone through all this time? A break, Paine said. Her crooked grin made Tidus think she was joking, but he was sure of something. He could not discover what had happened to him these last 2 years if he stood rooted to the spot speaking. In any case, I'm happy you had fun. If you had spent your days weeping over my absence, I would have felt kind of guilty. He had spoken lightly, but Rikku frowned. Well, I didn't cry. I was angry. I needed to understand, to know what happened to you and why. I ended up giving up, but... Yeah? Well, Yunie seemed to be... Well, Yunie seemed to be taking pleasure with the Gullwing's activities, but in my opinion, she made use of her time. She probably joined joyfully in sphere hunting or concerts, but ultimately, her only goal was you. She wanted to find you again, or forget you. I don't know. Me? Yeah. She left the village when she saw you in a sphere. What? What do you mean? So, this boy, Shuyin, and Len, the girl he loved, he had lived 1,000 years ago. She was a summoner and a famous singer. They had experienced so many things. But what you need to know is that Shuyin was your spitting image. Yuna was even wondering whether or not it was you. She had believed that she had a chance to find you again. But after all that, we have found ourselves in front of a 1,000-year-old war machine, Rikku said. Really? Are you serious? It was a tall story, and yet Tidus had to admit that the reality often defied common sense. He decided to stay quiet. I know, it's unbelievable, Rikku said. But I have seen it with my own eyes. And I must acknowledge that. If I had wondered about this, I would be dead before understanding what was happening. In order to illustrate her words, she gripped her hands around his neck and stuck her tongue out. The machine was named Vegnagun, Paine declared. It was enormous and would have massacred anyone had Len not stopped Shuyin, but he activated her once more, and we had to deal with it. She screwed up her eyes and stared at Tidus. Hey, what are you looking at? Tidus asked. According to Yuna, the Faith would have promised her your return in exchange for having saved Spira. So I'm here thanks to him? Said Tidus. No, said Rikku. Yuna went out of her way to find you, not him. The other conversations broke off, and everyone turned toward the little group. The elders were surrounding their summoner, and Tidus felt the heavy pressure of their eyes. His eyes met those of Yuna. He read the word sorry, and later, on the lips of the young girl. He smiled. Then, thinking he had to show his disappointment because of her restraint, he shrugged. Once again, Yuna said later, enunciating carefully the syllables. An old woman frowned, staring at the young man and the summoner in turns. She reprimanded Yuna, who apologized profusely, but later appeared to never come. The elders still spoke to her for a long time. Then a matron declared that Yuna must change and carried her away inside the temple. On the advice of Lulu, Tidus joined in the preparations of the banquet. Since the entire village was active, he ended up soon having nothing to do. With an embarrassed smile, he ended up joining Rikku and Paine. They all spoke for a moment. They told him about what had happened during his absence and Kamari Ronso. They alluded to New Yevon, the Youth League, and the Machine faction. The more they were enlarging on Yuna's concert, the more they were irritating him. He had the impression that they were making light of the life-threatening adventure they had had. What's the matter? Rikku asked. Are you in a bad mood? No, of course not. Yeah, sure. You are going too far. I did my best to tell you everything, and you... If that is how it is, fine. I'm going back to my aircraft. Tidus was asked by Paine to tell Yuna that they were going to leave and that they would come back in a few days. He barely mumbled some words by way of answer. Nothing worse than to be left alone in the middle of a busy crowd with a lot of things. He did not want that. He took refuge under the tent, and he let himself fall onto a bed. His mind was full of questions and thoughts as the day was fading. Soon, Tidus thought. He closed his eyes and imagined Yuna's probable face when she would finally meet him. Waka woke him up. Hey, Tidus! The boat is going to return with the catch of the evening. They will need some help to bring fish to the village. Come on, let's go! This is a job for the Aurochs. The team made the decision to play blitzball while waiting for the return of the boat. Kipa proposed to race to the cove. Tidus accepted and rushed forward on the path with the others. However, he hurtled down the slope with only Yuna in mind. Not one single thought for the competition. She surely wonders where I am. I should have stayed in the village. You are slow, Tidus, one of the boys exclaimed. He looked around him. He was running as fast as he could, and yet everyone was outrunning him, except Waka. Be careful, Waka, the man ahead mocked. It's nearly nightfall. You'll risk falling. Slow down and you'll hurt yourself. "Oh, shut up," Waka replied. Yet he was laughing as loudly as the other. "Enough, guys. Stop," Waka surrendered after a minute. Unable to catch up, he had decided to force his team to wait for him. Tidus took advantage of the opportunity to slow down and finally stop himself. "Well, Waka, did retirement do a number on you?" said Tidus. Short-winded, running with sweat, Waka nodded before getting going again. "You remember the tournament in which we had participated in 2 years ago in Lucca? I had planned to stop playing just after. I had told you about it, hadn't I? I wanted to become a trainer, but we lost the next match. A bitter failure. It was different from when we were losing every time, but we have suffered from this. After this failure, we have trained every day with all our strength. The villagers have even released us from our chores in order to let us give ourselves entirely over the game, and we have improved. I even think we have reached our best level. By dint of watching Gato and Letty, I have wanted to practice again, but at this time, Yuna has started to talk about the gull wings and to flail around, and I have been more involved in the affairs of the village. I am as motivated as anybody, and I am still young too, you see." He shrugged, as if he was saying, "You understand." He was still as indecisive as before, Tidus thought, but every day Lou reprimands me. He scratched his head, as if wanting to hide his embarrassment. The rest of the team was now far ahead from them. The two friends were not able to hear them any longer. Tidus was moving, these 2 lost years in mind, when Waka placed his arms around Tidus's neck. "Were we this close before?" the young man asked himself. Busy to seek in his memories, he kept walking, pushed by Waka. The path they were following was surrounding the island. It was named the Waterfall's Path. Some thin droplets were falling from the top of the cliff, and they ended up soon being soaked. Waka's fingers trailed up along Tidus's neck with a circle movement up to his hairs and started to scratch his head. The situation was getting more strange. "Hey, what are you doing?" Tidus ended up exploding while pushing away the hand of his friend. "Sorry, but I had to be sure." Waka appeared to regret his actions. "You're really real, yeah? You're not an illusion? A specter from the far plane?" "Well, yes, of course I'm real." "Of course you're real," Waka said joyfully, before he burst out laughing, as if making amends. However, Tidus was not going to forget the words pronounced by his friend, forever etched in his mind. He thought of the other world, this place where the dead could show themselves, in reaction of prayers, and talk with each other. He remembered his first trip to the far plane. He had thought about his mother, and she had appeared before him. Was he not a ghost as well? "Hey, Waka, aren't the things in the far planes just hallucinations?" Tidus asked Waka. "They're kinda like real visions," said Waka. What does that mean?" said Tidus. "Here's how I understand it. The fireflies react to the mind of the one who goes into the other world and takes shape of the person they want to meet. The conversation is just made up by the living. Therefore, the dead can only say what the living wants to hear. If the living wishes for encouragement, the dead will give them encouragement. But if they want pity, the dead will give them pity." "Wow. Really?" said Tidus. The explanation was lucid, something unusual for Waka. Abruptly, Tidus understood. Since his earliest childhood, Yuna's previous guardian had believed and followed Yevon's teachings. Then one day he had discovered it was all a lie. Without the support of the faith, he had tried to explain the world which was surrounding him. This is what was hidden behind his so clear answer. "We are on Besaid, not in the far plane, right? So I am real?" said Tidus. Then Tidus pinched Waka's waist. With a wonderful cry of indignation, Waka ran away on the double. This concludes Chapter 1 of Final Fantasy X-2.5. This actually took quite a bit of effort to produce, so if you want me to make more, then please like and leave a comment. Also subscribe, of course. Something to note with this translation is I have made some creative liberties here and there. For example, when I see something like the young man, I might put Tidus there, or if I remember, will put some character things in there like Rikku saying Yunie instead of Yuna, or I might say Tidus said or Waka said to make it clear. I'm not a professional at this, so you can hear that I have inconsistent voices and things like that, which I think would get better over time if you want me to continue doing this. I have found Final Fantasy X-2.5 not very accessible, so I hope by reading this translation, I'm making this more accessible for you. And yeah, I really do hope you like it, and I hope to see you again in another video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!